Brand new, just came out. Apparently, they are removing part of Yusuke from Shadows. Okay, so we're gonna watch this, see what's up, what's going on. All right.
Lot of stuff to go over when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows today. I also got some insider info from one of my buddies about where exactly that $20 million that Ubisoft has spent went into, and it's
$20 million since the delay.
kind of wild. There's also more stuff to go over too. There's rumors that once Shadow comes out, Ubisoft is cleaning house big time. And
Wow.
historians have entered the fight, and they are not taking prisoners and much more. It's so bad, dude. Let's get into it. So like I said, I got some info. So my buddy Francesco Solbach, who works at that park place, should be releasing an article on this when this video is live. And he told me that one of his Ubisoft insiders has spoken to him, and yeah, they're not looking good, fellas. So in case you don't know, when Shadows got delayed, Ubisoft decided to spend an extra $20 million in development costs to fix the game after criticisms and concerns from the fan base as well as gaming news outlets. According to Francesco's Ubisoft contact, was that originally Yasuke was meant to be the main character, so to speak, of Shadows. Yeah, Naoe is playable.
Well, you can tell that. Obviously, he was meant to be the main character because look at the details of her model and his. They're completely different. They didn't spend nowhere near the time on modeling her as they did him. So, yes, he was absolutely the main character, and they had a shit fit in Japan over the historical accuracies that they based this game's work off of a professor. And it's really crazy. They have delayed this game now, and they've put in an extra $20 million to what it seems to scale back Yusuke's character. However, when a Japanese person was like, "Hey, I have some structural issues with this. There is some criticisms that I have from a Japanese cultural perspective," his video was removed 8 times. 8 times. Imagine that. Imagine removing a Japanese person's video 8 times over a game based on his own country.
But she was never, according to this source, supposed to be considered the main character of the two. The idea was that Yasuke was going to be the foreigner and was Ubisoft's way of using him as a convenient scapegoat to give players a fish out of water experience into Japan during the Sengoku period, which is when this game takes place. Naoe, of course, is from Japan, knows how to speak the language, and has lived with their customs, so Yasuke was always meant to be the main character, so to speak, of this entry. But, following the backlash from everyone pretty much, Ubisoft panicked internally. And they realized if they released the game in its current state for its original November 2024 release date, the game would be both unpolished, full of bugs, and heavily feature Yasuke as the hero of the game.
And I think that that is a very important distinction to make here, guys, is that people don't care
Well, that's
necessarily about the color issue. People are trying to make it a race issue, and really it's a gameplay issue as well. If you look at the gameplay is sloppy. You can actually see like people's hands threading through the other characters. It's just horrendous to look at. It's like something from PlayStation 3. Parts of the animations themselves are beautiful, but when you start focusing on the combat, it looks like something from San Andreas, from a PlayStation 2 or 3 maybe era of animation for the combat. So yeah, it's really wild to see a AAA title like this dying in front of our very eyes, and it's sad, honestly. I don't know, the cultural aspect of this, the culture war is bad enough, but I think that if you would have came out with a fun game that people can appreciate without all the scope creep, if you had that with good combat, people don't care what's behind the armor, really.
That's not the case anymore, apparently. So, according to this source, this $20 million was used to reverse a lot of Yasuke's involvement in the game, and we're talking big time. Yeah, he's still in the game. Yes, he is playable and he still has quests and whatnot, but Ubisoft has allegedly gutted large portions of his content specifically to not make him the main character anymore, so to speak. Apparently, many of the story beats and side quests that were tied specifically to Yasuke have been changed internally with this extra 5 or so months of dev time. This coincides with what I was told last year, that Ubisoft was already scaling Yasuke back due to the increased backlash online. For an example, an insider told me months ago that they would remove the hip-hop battle theme for Yasuke because that music existing for him in Sengoku period Japan, well, it's ridiculous, let's be real. Not to mention on the nose that a black guy needs hip-hop music battle themes, like, wow, Ubisoft.
Yeah, wow. Like, that's crazy. Like, think about that for a minute. That is almost stereotyping your own character. Like, you could see it from that perspective, right? Like, if I have a character of African descent in a Japanese game, but from this time period, there wasn't even hip hop. So what were the game developers thinking? Like, why would you do this? That would be like having an Irish game and having to have potatoes. Like, it's almost like reversed race issues, right? Like that would be insulting.
Good on you there. But that's not all that this 20 million was spent on. It actually ended up doing the reverse of their original plan. So like I said, Naoe was not originally considered the main character of the game. However,
now you can
according
tell
to
from the
source,
model.
she is 100% going to be pushed forward more so as the main character over Yasuke now. As I reported in my previous video on Ubisoft erasing Yasuke, which yes they are by the way, as this video is now proving and will continue to do as well, Ubisoft is doing just that. They are literally terrified of the backlash and the lack of support and the pre-order numbers.
Well, remember at first they thought that they were in control and were deleting the criticisms. They were deleting them. They're not taking people serious, but now that they're watching other titles fail, and remember they've already had a flop recently, they need this win. They just closed down a studio that was responsible for the old Guitar Heroes in the UK. They need a win here, and they know that right now in its current form, this title is dead on arrival. It just is.
For shadows due to Yasuke being there. Like I showed in my previous video, we can see here that Ubisoft has even updated their
He's not
official
even...
website.
Okay, so you're saying that he's not even an assassin. Well, that's another criticism. That's a big criticism people have with Assassin's Creed Shadows, is the fact it's supposed to be about assassins. And you have a samurai. Anyone that knows anything about Japan knows that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
To literally erase Yasuke's presence when promoting.
So yeah, a lot of core Assassin's Creed fans are not happy about that. It's not just culture wars.
Promoting the game with just Naoe instead, which is just like what Francesco's source told him. They want players to believe that Naoe is actually the main character and was always supposed to be, but she wasn't. She was never supposed to be the main character. They also used this $20 million allegedly to enhance Naoe's parkour and abilities within the game as well, while not really enhancing what Yasuke can do at all. This was done, as Francesco's source told him, to change Shadows from a samurai-focused experience to a shinobi-focused experience instead, which is wild, man. They are genuinely terrified of people's reception to Yasuke within this game. As Francesco told me more, his source claimed...
Well, you know what looks absolutely terrible in Assassin's Creed Shadows is being able to kill level 1 NPCs. The optics is so bad in this game. Going around and slaying poor villagers at will. Who thought that was a good idea?
The other big reason why Yasuke is being heavily altered or censored, I guess, in their marketing material and posters is because Ubisoft wants to ensure they do not piss off Japanese people or historians who are actually well versed in the culture that this game tries to portray. They really are trying to backpedal a lot of this. Here's what Francesco had to say about it, and I quote,
Yeah, let's hear
"These
it.
cuts are reportedly intended to avoid offending Japanese audiences and historians who have criticized the game's historical inaccuracy. A significant portion of the controversy ties back to Thomas Lockley, whose work Ubisoft allegedly used as the primary..."
That's him. Thomas Lockley. That's the little rat. Okay, so he was a university teacher in Japan, and he wrote, I think it was a book. Guys, you would have to fact check this, okay? He wrote a book on Yasuke, and it was actually more fictional than it was anything, and he sold it to Western audiences. He didn't even sell the same story in Japan. He sold it for Western audiences. So then this Ubisoft AAA gaming company picks it up. They put all this millions of dollars behind the idea, and the guy completely rats out. Like he deletes all of his social media. I mean, really, it's the biggest troll move ever. Ever. And I can guarantee you that there was somebody that worked at Ubisoft that was like, oh my god, I got to do something for Western audiences. Wow, I found this professor, copy paste, and now they're left with a fucking mess.
Inspiration for Yasuke's character. Lockley, who co-authored African Samurai: The True Story of Yasuke, a legendary black warrior in feudal Japan, has been accused of grossly exaggerating and fabricating much of Yasuke's history. His portrayal has been widely debunked by historians who argue that Yasuke was likely a bodyguard and servant rather than a legendary samurai as Lockley claimed. Lockley's dismissal from discussions around the game has been subtle but noticeable. Ubisoft initially promoted him as a key source for the character but has since gone silent on his involvement.
Yeah, he went silent. He completely deleted everything. Like, this guy is a no-name. Like, he just jumped right into the ocean off of a cliff. Like, he's gone.
Silence coincides with a wave of backlash from scholars, particularly in Japan, who criticize Lockley's claims as speculative at best and outright false at worst. It is rumored that...
And I try to look at these things from a fair perspective. Has Assassin's Creed ever really been that historically accurate? I mean, it has to some degree, but there's always this balance between historical accuracy and fiction. It is so hard to walk that tightrope sometimes, and there's always going to be someone who is offended. Like, this is nothing new. So, you can take some leeway with accuracies in order to create a great game. At the end of the day, people just want a great game. But not only is it culturally charged and historically inaccurate, you have shitty gameplay. But yeah, you can meditate in the game and have a Shibu litter box. Like, this makes no sense whatsoever. And because of the scope creep and the bad combat, the bad gameplay, and then not handling the criticisms right and listening to the people that's going to be paying for this game, but removing Japanese people's videos 8 times, silencing people, has just been a very bad look. And it would seem like to me that no matter what, heads are going to roll when this release happens. And if you're in charge of the company, you would say, why not?
That some of Yasuke's cut content in the game, including quests tied to his supposed rise as a samurai, were directly influenced by Lockley's work and later removed to avoid further controversy. Ubisoft's response to this backlash seems to include a shift in marketing focus, with greater emphasis on Naoe's parkour system and the game's shinobi elements. Trailers that initially highlighted Yasuke's samurai way during the game's announcement are now less centered on him, reflecting a clear pivot in how the game is being presented. Whether this last-minute reworking can salvage the project or not remains to be seen, but the changes seem like a desperate attempt to appease critics and salvage public perception. But it doesn't end there. Sources state that Ubisoft's change in approach has gone even further. The delay was used to refine Naoe's parkour system significantly and to heavily alter many dialogue interactions, between Yasuke, Naoe, and the NPCs throughout the game. However, as our source mentioned, they could only do so much. Among these dialogue changes were discussions where Yasuke was previously presented as a samurai and celebrated.
I mean, do you know how hard it is, guys, to have a main character and then scale it back in a storyline and not break other pieces? This is definitely going to break the game in other ways.
For his renown amongst Japanese NPCs. Now it seems this has been altered to focus on the Creed, which will be built by both Naoe and Yasuke. Though, with Naoe taking center stage instead of Yasuke, Ubisoft has also reworked cutscenes.
Big shift,
where
boys.
Yasuke was initially featured more prominently, with Naoe now portrayed as the driving force of the duo. From what we understand, it feels almost as though Naoe has taken the lead role, even though players will still have the option to switch between the two characters. Our source also stated that the delay was primarily aimed at re-evaluating Yasuke's role in the game to avoid further bad press from, quote, historical finale.
Well, it's not just historical. It's not just historical situations either. Remember, they literally removed 8 videos. I mean, they removed one video 8 times that was actually very nice, doing constructive criticism from a Japanese person's perspective. Like, what world do we live in where someone from a culture, from a country, use silence so that you can portray your historical bias upon them?
Ubisoft reportedly sought to minimize criticism from Japanese historians by making the game more historically accurate where possible. So how much did Ubisoft really try to change? According to our source, the most egregious inaccuracies were related to Yasuke's portrayal, and efforts were made to mitigate these issues. However, they added that there are still individuals within Ubisoft who remain adamant that Yasuke's character will resonate with players and become a success, despite the backlash and mounting criticism. End quote. Thanks to Francesco Solback, who I have also streamed with, by the way, for all of this. Again, if you want to follow the guy on Twitter, here's his handle. He's doing amazing work over at that park place.
Yeah, we'll stop it right here, guys. You can give credit where credit's due. I really appreciate some of the information that's being put out. So
I have used Francesco's scoops aplenty already. The guy is very well connected in games and movies as well, as you can see. But what Francesco has told us here and in his write-up, which again should be live by the time my video is up, he's clearly being told that, yes, Ubisoft is terrified of historians and pissing off the Japanese fans even further. But the fact that they wanted to make Yasuke the main hero, so to speak, that speaks volumes. Especially considering the fact that the guy, as we can see, does not play anything like an assassin in a game where players expect to, be able to do assassin stuff. It's such a bizarre series of mistakes on Ubisoft's part, but I'm not surprised. I mean, they were hell-bent on adding DEI. And now they're...
So you're saying that it is historically accurate? Well, I'm not going to say that I'm, an expert in this period of Japan, but I will listen to experts over Westerners who think they can impose their ideas on the Japanese people if a majority of people in Japan and professors, and even the professor that this entire thing is based off of, says that they took the storyline too far, or that it's fictional, then what can you say? You don't have to be an expert. Just listen to even the person that they based this on. Like the professor that wrote the book that they based this game on and put so much money behind. Like, he's left. He cashed out. He's done.
Releasing this game in a literal post-woke era. It's a mess, man. But do you think the mess stopped there? Hell nah, dude. We got lots of cringe left to sift through in this video. Next up, we got to talk about this photo which sparked the dismay and hatred of 1,000 suns, and I'm not kidding. To you, it may just look like Yasuke walking through a Japanese market, but dude, as you'll come to see, this photo alone has unified Japan in its hatred of shadows. Let me explain. First, we have Dr. Alaric Naude, who is a professor and linguist, and his analytical eye has caused this photo to become so hated in record time. Here's what he said about it.
Why?
Yasuke is shown wearing golden armor from the Kamakura period. Not only is the setting inappropriate, but it's also impossible for a foreigner fresh off the ship to be wearing armor worth an estate. Even a feudal lord couldn't afford it. And the talent for getting it all wrong is astounding, from the weapon piercing the helmet to the watermelon appearing amidst blooming cherry blossoms.
Um, like, do you think anyone really cares about this when they're playing the game? Would you guys care about this? Like, if the gameplay is good, do you care that your character has gold armor unless you just don't like the color? And are you going to notice that those watermelons are not time period? Or do you just want the combat to be good? So I think this could be pushing a little bit far. It's one thing to be so historically inaccurate that you offend an entire nation. It's another thing to start nitpicking the armor color. Like, well, it's not period. When he would have got off the ship, he wouldn't have had the money of the feudal lord, right? So, in that case, he wouldn't have gold armor. Well, you could say that about a lot of things in video games.
Note, besides the fact that watermelons and cherry blossoms are never seen in the same seasons, watermelons were first introduced to Japan during.
I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we even doing here? Are we going to start looking at every game and say, the fruit in this game is not during the correct harvesting season? You have oranges near a Christmas tree. I mean, what is this? There's plenty of subject material that is fucked up in this game, besides criticizing some watermelons on the side of the road.
The Edo period, 1603 to 1868. It is believed to have been brought there by Dutch traders or through China. Therefore, it is very wrong to say that watermelons appeared during the Sengoku period. By the way,
they're hitting them all watermelons. Watermelons, bro. I mean, watermelons and cherry blossoms. It's like the combat sucks. Look at the combat. You can actually see in the combat animation, like hands and body parts passing through the other NPCs and characters. You have someone who is based on a historical fiction that the professor is now, it's been proven, and that he can go around and slay level 1 poor Japanese villagers. Like, there's so much subject material to not like about this game. You don't have to be unfair and say, oh, there's a fruit over there, and that's not the correct season for it. Like, you don't have to do that.
Goku period, which is when Shadows takes place, started in 1467. Shadows takes place in 1579. During the Azuchi Momoyama period of time, pretty much the game takes place during the finale of the Sengoku period amidst a massive civil war.
People were also complaining because they said that this looked like a Chinese. Yeah, I heard that too. So they're also complaining that this person looks like Confucius. That is actually was one of the complaints that this when I post this up, I'm gonna put a link to that guy's video. But yeah, that was one of the complaints, was that this beard is actually Chinese, not that common or particular in Japanese for this period as well.
During the finale
which that's what you would think right here, right? As a foreigner, this is something you may think, and the Japanese are not too happy about that too.
Sengoku period amidst a massive civil war. So what Alaric is saying here is that Shadows not only has watermelons in Japan way before they were actually introduced.
I mean, how can we not laugh about this? I mean, we're upset over the timing of fruit. Like, is this a constructive criticism?
Into the country proper, but that they also have blooming cherry blossom trees while watermelons are in season, which is the opposite seasons, by the way. Apparently, cherry blossom trees, based on what I can find, bloom during the springtime in Japan, between late March and early April. However, in places like Hokkaido, they may even bloom in May. Watermelons
Google have shit.
Somewhere between
boys, they may bloom in May. Like, cancel this game. We have fruit that is not in the correct season with the damn trees, the cherry blossom trees. Like, oh my god. Guys, there's so much to bitch about in this game already. The combat sucks. The animation is not that good. It crops through the other characters. You can have someone go around and slay poor villagers for the fun of it. There's historical inaccuracies with Yusuke that even the original person that conjured up the story is now, he left out on it. I mean, he's done jumped away, and you can't even find this guy, and we're criticizing fruit. Like, what sense does this make?
May and September based on the
And that's not, this guy narrating. I'm not talking about him. I'm saying just, the general criticisms.
In Japan, watermelon season is from May to August. So technically Ubisoft
like 5 minutes on watermelon
is from May in the game, I guess. However, again, despite that part of the year being the only time both the cherry blossom,
I can guarantee you that if this game had good combat and wasn't so historically inaccurate, no one would care about the damn fruit.
the trees could maybe, I guess, bloom, plus there maybe being watermelons.
Maybe they brought them in from the damn, I don't know, was the Silk Road around back then?
Unfortunately for Ubisoft, again, watermelons were not introduced until much later on when Shadows was technically happening as a game within the time period of Japan. So it's all still a mess and none of it makes any sense, but it's still funny to see. Another user would even start circling the comedy of error.
I think you take away from the debate. I think when you do something like this, you discredit yourself, honestly.
In this goddamn picture, dude. One user would say stop nitpicking the graphics, and then, well, yeah, I mean, come on, man. The weapon is going through Yasuke's comically expensive suit of armor that he could never afford here too. By the
again, no one would give a damn that he's wearing armor he couldn't afford. They would care the fact that it's sticking up through his hat.
His comically expensive suit of armor that he could never afford here too. By the way, a solid suit of golden armor would cost an insane amount of money back then. Nobody could afford that. Probably not even Nobunaga. So Yasuke...
Well, in all games, no one can afford anything. I mean, when people play games, do you think that they're always evaluating the price of things? I mean... Of course. The gear is cool. That's the point. When you make a game too realistic, people don't want to play it. Hello, meta, virtual reality. People don't want reality. They want fiction.
Yasuke just walking around in a gold suit of armor is literally insane. It would be like some celebrity right now that's just walking around with billions of dollars worth of jewelry on to flex. Like, that probably wouldn't happen. Then Kangmin Lee would enter the chat and ask, are they going to add fried chicken in the DLC? To which a user would reply, perhaps Yasuke taught the Japanese how to fry chicken like in Korea. Also, I decided to look it up, and apparently the Portuguese were responsible for introducing the Japanese to fried chicken.
Let me tell you right now.
I didn't know this.
Let me tell you right now. That Korean fried chicken is fucking amazing.
Obviously, but apparently Japanese people celebrate Christmas by eating American-styled fried chicken.
They do.
Is that real, or is Google trolling me?
No, Google's not trolling you. That is completely real. They go to KFC. There's lines out the door. I know for a fact.
Know in the comments. Although it looks like Yasuke actually could have ate fried chicken, according to Google, in Japan during this period at least. Because according to Google, the Portuguese first came into contact with Japan in 1543, when their ships landed on the southern tip of
What are we talking about here?
I can't say this. Tanegashima Island. I probably said that wrong, but anyway. So there would be at least 2 decades worth of time before Yasuke, in this game, I guess, that he could probably have fried chicken. I can't believe that I'm sitting here researching this right now, but I think we're all learning something new today at least, so you're welcome, I guess. So if we see Yasuke eating fried chicken in Shadows, at least it would be canonically accurate. But I think having watermelon there on the side and him being a black guy, come on Ubisoft, we see what you're doing. Y'all are bending the space-time continuum to will watermelons and fried chicken in your Black Samurai game, and this whole situation is so stupid, but all I can really do is laugh at it.
No. neither one of them are racist. I mean, Ubisoft's not trying to be racist here. It wasn't an intentional. I mean, how can we say it was an intentional thing that they did? Like they were like, okay, we're gonna try. It would have to be someone that worked at the company that was working to troll the company. Like they want the company to fail, and they did this. It would be an expert level troll, or it wasn't. They just put it there. Like that does happen. We can't say for fact that it was some subconscious Freudian slip by putting watermelon in the game. And it really doesn't matter.
due to how dumb it is. Another user would say, like, why specifically the cherry blossoms and also why the watermelons did you choose to nitpick? And then someone would then reply, because Ubisoft claims to make games with authentic settings, and as someone who lives in Japan, seeing watermelons and sakura side by side looks as authentic as a snowman on a beach. And hey,
Yeah, I mean, maybe it stands out. Does anyone in at least in the United States, we have fruit all year round because everywhere there's a harvest of something. I mean, there's no seasons on fruit anymore. So I guess it just doesn't really penetrate our perception of fruit. I mean, you have Florida, California, you have the North. I mean, it's such a big country. And then we import fruit from South America and all over the world. So, you know, if I saw watermelons any time of the year, it doesn't make a fuck to me. Like, I just don't understand this, guys. It doesn't matter about the fucking fruit. The whole point is the gameplay sucks. And yes, it was so historically inaccurate that it became gross. And now we're devolving into this, oh, there's fruit during the wrong season. And this is going way off track now.
who are we to claim that a Japanese native wouldn't know more about their culture than us, right? It is ridiculous, but man, is it fun.
Yeah, that's fair.
Full ass fake black samurai, and you got watermelons in it. My god, Ubisoft. Incredible displays of stupidity here, amazing even. Then one user goes scorched earth by saying this. What do you mean watermelons didn't reach Japan until the Edo period? Long post to no stereo. They don't see color. They do in fact only see color, race, gender compared to literally everyone else. It probably doesn't help as well that this new gameplay scissor reel came out and got a lot of people talking for all the...
I would argue that it's not just color. It's not the color issue. Even in Japan, saying samurai is like telling an Italian pizza maker that Greece did it better. It doesn't work. It's insulting. So they insulted a lot of Japanese player base. Okay, that's understandable. But that's not really a race thing. That's like calling Benedict Arnold the Knight of America or something. Like you know, I'm trying to come up with a comparison here of like a samurai is very important to Japanese culture. And only certain people could be samurai, right? So if you paint someone as a samurai, it's going to offend some people. But this is a major title, and even if there were problems with it not being 100% historically accurate, if the gameplay was good, maybe this is a hot take. Maybe I'm wrong. But people would still play it. They just don't care.
the wrong reasons. Sorry, but I have to black and white the entire thing because it's just...
Yeah, and some of it is just so gruesome. Like I play Path of Exile 2. I played Grand Theft Auto Vice City when I was a kid, okay? But I'm saying that just going around slaying level 1 villagers is a bad look, Ubisoft.
full of blood and YouTube will censor it, but as you can see, Yasuke is shown to just be mercilessly killing dozens of Japanese people with no remorse.
Yeah.
The whole thing just comes off as gross, but it is funny how these same journalist types will complain that Resident Evil 5 is racist because a white guy is shooting zombies in Africa, but they are all suspiciously quiet when Yasuke, their black samurai god, is just killing Japanese men in Japan without punity. And yeah, this is worse because these Japanese people are not infected, mindless zombies. They are human beings. Yet you'll never see the media claim it either way, but just watch. Whenever a Resident Evil 5 inevitably gets remade and announced, If there's still black zombies, the gaming media press is going to lose their collective minds. It's such a double standard, dude. But the entire Yasuke situation is ridiculous. Even IGN can't find the strength to defend them with their tweet that said, "Opinion, Assassin's Creed Shadows is not the Ninja Splinter Cell game I hoped for." This comes from their preview from one of their journos named Matt Perslow, who pretty much just states the game is not very good and misses the mark. Like they aren't.
Yeah, but it's not very good, and it's missing the mark for more reasons than just the culture war. If you watch the gameplay, and if you watch the criticisms that actual Japanese people are making, it's not just about the time period. The gameplay is problematic. It looks like it's in alpha stage still.
Aren't even hiding that the biggest downfall of this game will indeed be Yasuke. Listen to this, and I quote: "Standing notably shorter than her heavily armored companion, Naoe is able to avoid enemy sightlines more easily. Her slender frame allows her to do things the bulkier Yasuke cannot, such as slip through narrow gaps and hide in boxes. While her grappling hook opens up access to rooftops and ledges that have no climbing handholds. Playing as Naoe opens up new routes and pathways through Shadow's world, or perhaps more accurately, playing as Yasuke closes the door on many established Assassin's Creed traditions. He's unable to perform any of the series' staple stealth actions aside from using his bow for silent, ranged attacks. Naoe does have a detailed skill tree, allowing you to build and hone her abilities beyond those standard tools. But all the exciting options are combat-focused, such as the elaborate 9-strike guard breaker or eviscerate with its kick-flip finisher. When it comes to stealth, the..."
Yeah, we'll let this play through. You know, one of the things about it is you can choose which character you want to play. So you're not stuck with a particular character. You don't have to play Yasuke, right? I believe so. You can choose the female lead character now. So it's, you know, we'll see.
Need to slow down time for a few seconds. As far as this demo was willing to show me, there's nothing along the lines of traps, disguises, or more advanced stealth ideas. After 3 hours of play, I'm fairly confident in saying that Assassin's Creed Shadows will be the best stealth experience of the series' RPG era. Having a character and toolkit entirely dedicated to the approach signifies that Ubisoft is taking this fundamental part of the franchise seriously for what feels like the first time in many years.
You have to feel pretty bad about the release. You have to think to yourself, okay, we're in pretty deep shit. If this game doesn't do good, it could be the end of our AAA title. And we are willing to throw $20 million and delay the game just to try to do a course correction. A lot of times when you do that, it's in haste, and it doesn't end well.
But as dedicated fans will know, stealth never actually went away, it was just eclipsed by the action. Shadows lets that stealth step back into the limelight, however, just because stealth now has prominence doesn't mean it's undergone any meaningful change. For all the studio's talk of Splinter Cell-like detection systems, Shadows feels like Assassin's Creed getting back to business as usual, rather than exploring a new, sneakier frontier. For many exhausted by the reign of Spartans and Vikings, that will likely be enough, but if what I've played is representative of Shadows as a whole, I think Ubisoft has missed a huge opportunity to capitalize on the advanced stealth potential of one of history's most recognizable clandestine assassin groups, end quote. So even IGN can't defend this thing really either. They confirmed that the game also has nothing interesting in terms of how you use your stealth. And the only new additions are pretty much being able to crawl through spaces, but it just slows gameplay down pretty much. Naoe has no...
I can't wait to play this game. Like, honestly, I cannot wait. People are telling me, oh, don't play it, it's not going to be good. No, I want to play it. Like, I'm going to give it a fair shot. I really am. I'm not rooting for the downfall of Ubisoft. Seeing, a matter of fact, Tencent's talking about buying out Ubisoft. That was in another article I was reading. I would like to see Western game developers and different groups actually perform and think about their player base and really produce some amazing games again. Like, that would be incredible. But it's just not happening because they're not listening to the player base. They're not. They've got scope creep. They're including meditation in games and painting. Did you see that, guys? Painting fucking birds in a game when you're an assassin game. So you can't hunt and kill a bird, but you can chop off the head of a villager level 1 person. Like, how does this make any fucking sense?
Cool, unique stealth abilities, which seems stupid, especially considering in Mirage that Basim even had the unique ability at least to super assassinate people in quick succession. Why they wouldn't give Naoe something similar to unlock is Ubisoft's decision, I guess. IGN also claimed that despite Shadows having a light and darkness system where you could use the darkness to cloud your movements, they found in actual practice that it didn't matter either way, and enemy sightlines were just as easy to avoid with or without light. Which probably whoever worked on those systems in the game read that and then wanted to throw themselves out a window. But there's more bad news from Fandom Pulse. Rumor Ubisoft to shut down Ubisoft Quebec
Well,
after
yeah.
Assassin's Creed Shadows
Yeah.
release.
Yeah, we know
this
that
is a huge rumor, by
they're
the
on the way
that
down,
is
boys.
insane if it ends up being true. So Ubisoft Quebec made Shadows, and if Ubisoft closes them down, that's like, dude, that's a massive blow to Ubisoft and really the entire games industry that exists within Quebec, Canada. To put it into perspective for you, Ubisoft Quebec as a studio made games like the original Assassin's Creed, although granted many of the people who made that game have long left the company. They also made Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Again, most people are gone now that made those two, and it shows with Shadows. They also made stuff like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, For Honor, the original Splinter Cell, and Far Cry, although same thing, many left that made those two. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the original Watch Dogs, Immortal Phoenix Rising, and more. So,
well, they just had to shut down, I think it was this place called Lancaster something in the UK. They had to shut down a studio that was known for Guitar Hero, guys, and DJ Hero. Anyone that's been into gaming for the last 10 or 15 years understands how big those games were. Having to shut that down, like studios that had that much success, I mean, you're kind of the black plague of gaming at this point.
if this studio closes down, it's going to be chaos for Ubisoft. According to Fandom Pulse's insider, there is just absolute pandemonium at Ubisoft Quebec right now. Also, if anyone who's watching this works there, please reach out to me so I can get your side of the story without Ubisoft's corporate stuff in the way. If you want your voice heard, please
that's what they're gonna do.
DM me on Twitter.
Like, honestly, if you work at a AAA company or something, and if I don't know how your NDAs work there, but I will say this, spilling the guts of your relationship with your current employer, even if it's bad, sets you down a very bad path to get rehired by someone else. No one else is going to want to hire you and say, hey, you know, you completely shitballed your company as it was going down. Come work for us.
Twitter or something. I promise to keep your identity safe like I do everyone else's that contact.
Okay. The identity will be safe.
Me, so please let me talk, because this is knucking futs, dude. If you go look up their job applications, by the way, there's 0 new job positions that are pending, which is usually proven.
Oh, they're laying off people. I completely agree with this guy. I mean, they're in deep shit.
Your studio is going to probably die if no new blood is being added to it at all. Ubisoft has also closed studios in San Diego, California, as well as in Osaka, Japan. They also laid off people in Sydney, Australia recently too. Ubisoft also laid off the entire staff at Ubisoft Leamington, which is located in England. That's around 50 people that have been let go as well. Leamington.
But I feel like that there's kind of this attitude or this chorus of destruction for Ubisoft. And that's one thing that I disagree with. I'm not looking for the downfall of Ubisoft. I think that sucks. I don't want people to fail. But they're obviously failing. Like, and they really fucked the bunny on this, guys. Like, they really did. The Yasuke story is so inaccurate that the professor that it was based on, he got the fuck out of Dodge, and they're left holding the bag. The Japanese people were insulted. A lot of them. Some of them weren't, but a lot of them were, and they didn't handle it right. They didn't say, we hear you. I mean, sometimes all you have to do is look at someone and say, I hear you. I understand your complaint. They didn't even bother. They just deleted people's complaints, adding insult to injury. So a lot of things have went, and they've got what looks to be combat from 2015. So there's a lot of problems that are deeper than the time of year for fruit. And it's almost like there's some glee in people's voices wanting to see the Ubisoft Titanic sink. And I don't understand that. Like, why feel that way? I think they also overestimate how many copies this will cost them. They'll still sell, a couple million copies, and it'll slowly go down because it is a big title. Anyway,
Worked on the god-awful Avatar Frontiers of Pandora and Watch Dogs Legion. They also helped work on Star Wars Outlaw.
and some of that, yeah, you're right. Some of that comes from, some of that does come from enmity towards these companies injecting their altruistic way of their perspective into people's gameplay. And people don't want that. Like, if you take politics, the culture vulture shit, and put it in games, you ruin them. Even if you're right, let's say that you're right. Whatever side of the cultural war you're on, say you're correct. People don't want it in their fucking games. They want fiction. I don't know how hard this is to say, guys. People want fiction. If people wanted reality, they could go outside and sit down on the damn street and kick rocks.
Too. Pretty much, Ubisoft is bleeding across the board, guys. They are losing employees in studios at an alarming rate. But it's simply because they're making things that nobody wants to buy because it's all slop. It's the same game
it is slop.
And over. And who are they kidding that people would still want to buy these things? Ubisoft also announced
well, so many of these games are audience captured.
Stockholm and Reflections, combining the layoffs there plus Leamington, that puts the entire count at around 185 people laid off as far as we know. This is all the leadership's fault at the top of Ubisoft.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And the thing is that they're audience captured. So when that happens, you look at Yoshida's problem with Final Fantasy. They're not wanting to make the game harder. They're not wanting to push it too much. They're afraid. Because when you have tremendous success, and you have a particular audience and they're expecting a type of game, and then you change anything or you add new mechanics, you're taking some risk. But I would rather take risk that isn't guaranteed than have guaranteed slow decline.
If you ask me, they're the ones that are greenlighting these projects. They positioned themselves to embrace DEI, and they were the ones who thought it was smart to implement Yasuke as their core hero into their next big Assassin's Creed game, which clearly is not working for them. Everything they've done is a masterclass in how to never do things if you want to make money or gain fans' goodwill. And the fact that they spent an extra $20 million...
They lost the goodwill. That's a very good point. And a lot of titles have. Like, you lose goodwill, you lose trust. Final Fantasy XIV is going through that process now. We pay like $150 a year on some live service subscription every month, and sooner or later it feels like that the devs are just like, okay, here's the same old shit that you can expect. We don't actually care about innovating. You will eat the same thing every day and you will like it, and we know you'll like it, so as long as you're willing to suck dicks, we're not going to change it.
$1 million to not add much features but instead remove content featuring Yasuke specifically. Yeah, this is bad, guys. This has all gone from worse to horrific in record time, but Ubisoft can really only blame themselves. But what do you think about all of this? Let me know as always. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to stay up to date on all the slop and take care of yourselves. They actually put watermelons in their Black Samurai game.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm going to give this guy a like. It was a pretty good video. I really think keying off on the fruit, which, again, he sourced from other people, isn't that big of a deal. I don't think people would care about that if it wasn't for everything else that makes the game suck right now. So anyway, so that is from Indie Mian TV, however you say that. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna give that a big old like. Okay.